I want to welcome to the show from Otago University, James Scott. James, good morning to you.
Hi, thanks. Nice to be here.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have you with us. A really cool story, and this is maybe a little bit. This is our payoff for just showing people getting shot at. We'll have a nice story as well. In the Otago Daily Times in the weekend, that you are on the search for fossils of our solar system with a project called Fireballs Aotearoa. As I said earlier, sounds a little bit like something you need a cream for. But I've read the article rather than just reading the article out, like on the show. Why don't you explain to us what Fireballs Aotearoa is? Because it sounds amazing.
Sure. Well, the idea is that what we want to do is we want to be able to find a meteorite that lands in New Zealand. And to do that, we need to set up a network of cameras across the country that give enough coverage so that when one of these fireballs and when one of these fireballs produces a meteorite that lands on a surface of New Zealand, we can triangulate where that occurred. And that's the premise of it. We can get these cameras, which are relatively cheap to build and purchase, mount them across Otago, or actually across New Zealand, but definitely driving for Otago since that's where I am, and I want to be the person that holds one of these meteorites. Yeah, so that's the idea, and it's very much a sort of a citizen science driven thing. People get to log in and look at their cameras and see what it's captured over the evening. Just as an example, a couple of nights ago, a camera in Otago, there's one in Otago, and then there's a couple in Nelson, and not much in between, captured 114 meteorites in one evening.
Wow.
So they're there. Not all of them land, and even less of them will come to will land in New Zealand. But definitely, when one does, we want to be able to find it.
Let me have a look at this as well. I'm just going to bring this back up because I'm just having a look on YouTube as we're talking to you. Obviously, I think the story talks about it. This does happen, but we don't often catch it on camera, especially in New Zealand. And this is an example, I think, of. Yeah. So this is happening around the world. Boom. You take that off, though, I guess.
Yeah,
that was added later, I assume.
Yeah, I don't think that was. I don't think that was live. Yeah. But there you go. There's some examples. And right. So what you're saying is we need more cameras, and obviously these are massive examples. But to catch what's going on in our skies, to what end? Why are we wanting to do this?
Well, when we get these bits of rock, they represent various portions of the solar system. So some of them are from the start of the solar system. So they're 4.5 billion years old. Some of these meteorites that come through, some are from Mars. We've actually got bits of rock that have come back from Mars, and they'll come through Earth's atmosphere like this, burning up as they do as a little bright fireball or a large bright fireball, and then they tend to fragment just before the surface and scatter an area. But the trick is finding where that area is, and well, I mean, this was in Russia, I think. This one,
yeah, that's the one that blew out windows on hundreds of buildings or something, wasn't
it? Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So if we're able to have that network, and the funniest thing happened was that the day before that article went out, one of my colleagues in Otago here said, actually, I saw a meteorite yesterday, and it was in the middle of the day, and they'd seen this thing shoot through the sky above Dunedin. And fragment into several bits, just like you're seeing here. So
wow. Yeah, these are obviously not your project, but these are in an ideal world what we'd like your project to do, I'm assuming.
That's right. Yeah.
So what happens like if you do, like what advice would you give to people who find one? Because it's like, obviously, I'm imagining it's like a crime scene, wouldn't it? You wouldn't want to be like tampering with it too much.
Yeah, well, yeah, I like to tamper with them later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing would be if they were to find one. I mean, the website, which is www.fireball.nz, you can report a find on there, and then hopefully you'll be coordinated into contacting somebody who can actually identify. Yeah, there we go. Because, I mean, finding a black rock in a field may not mean much to... well, there are lots of black rocks out there, so actually knowing that it's a meteorite is identifying it as a meteorite is the key thing, and it requires a couple of tools to do so, but relatively straightforward.
So is the ultimate goal here, the cameras are to see a meteor, to be able to track it, to then find the physical, the end goal is the physical meteorite in your hand to be able to then use to track and trace and find out more about our universe.
Absolutely. I mean, we have about we have 9 meteorites known in New Zealand, but there are so many more. There are heaps out there, and more come regularly. It's just that we've got too much vegetation and too many sheep and so forth to recognise where they've landed. So they're there. It's just a case of having the means of tracking them, and with the camera network and pointing in different directions, be able to triangulate where that meteorite should have landed, and then a search party would go out. And just as an example of how successful this is, last year the same network in the UK found a very rare meteorite, but it had landed on someone's driveway, and the person thought they described it as looking. They thought someone had dumped their barbecue on their driveway and had no idea that this was a piece of the solar system that had landed.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, how many meteorites would hit the world every year, or a country every? Sometimes, because like I remember when the Christchurch earthquakes happened, that was when I learned that there was 1.3 million earthquakes around the world, every single year. Which seems like a lot, obviously, but because most of them happen in unpopulated areas, or they're so minor you don't know about them, they don't get reported. Is it sort of similar with meteorites? Are we being hit by dozens or hundreds a day?
Globally, we would be.
Yeah.
I mean, the best places for finding them, there's two ideal places. One of which is Antarctica, since a black rock stands out on the ice, on white snow, obviously, and the other places in the deserts of around northern Africa. And the tribes people through there recognise that if they find a black rock in the white sand, then it's probably a meteorite. And these show that there are heaps of them. But you can imagine if a meteorite landed on in Otago somewhere in central Otago, it would you may not even recognise it because it wouldn't stand out that much from, say, some of the volcanic rocks or whatever. So with the increased targeting, we'd be able to go out as a group, search. School people can participate. Anyone can participate in it, and who knows what you might find.
Very cool. So if people want to find out more about it, the website's the best place to go?
At the moment, there's also Twitter and Facebook as well. But yeah, there's a bit of information there. And the key thing is that if you want to be part of it, and people are more than welcome to, and they might surprise themselves with what they'll find, is that they can build their own camera for not very much money.
Yeah, right. Because I remember Gareth Morgan did this trying to find wild cats. So maybe we could just take those cameras and just point into the sky. Maybe we could double up and get some extra data points.
I was thinking about all the security cameras that cover the university as well. They could be pointed in another direction too.